I think when it comes to dieting, one of the most obvious overlooked factors is the prioritization of spurring muscle. When people diet, they are focused on one thing and only, the mirror and scales. So they see the scale weight going down, and they also look in the mirror and they see themselves slimmer. Now, there are two brilliant ways to monitor for weight loss. However, there is something else we need to pay close attention to, and that is the spurring of muscle tissue. I'm going to assume for everyone out there, not just people who are bodybuilders and want to build massive muscular frames, but even the women who just want to lose weight, that you obviously do not want the scale weight to drop and to have that from the form of muscle tissue. So this is a very overlooked factor. So let's today discuss how to spur muscle when dieting. Okay, so first things first, can you spur muscle while dieting? The fact of the matter is you will lose an X amount of muscle tissue while dropping weight. That's just the fact of the matter is there's no way to change that. However, can you slow that rate down, or can you exponentially decrease the amount of muscle tissue that you could potentially burn if you do your diet in a very different way? Absolutely. First of all, let's look at the obvious bits. So I'm going to assume that already the person watching this video who is dieting does some form of resistance training, because that's obviously the first thing you're going to need to do here. If you're not resistance training, then this is the most obvious thing. You're gonna obviously have to be doing resistance training or working your muscles to some degree every week in order to maintain muscle tissue and give your body an excuse to hold on to the muscle. The body has no need to carry that muscle, it will drop it. So let's start from there. Let's start from the training aspect. When you are dieting and you're on lower calories than normal, your potential performative output may be drastically reduced. So for example, weights you once able to do or weights at certain rep ranges may start to decrease. Most things should still hold during a diet, but things are going to decrease. So how would you curb that from happening? Well, first of all, what we need to do is, my first suggestion would be cutting the junk volume out. If you're performing an exercise every day where there's a lot of sets that you were used to when you had a lot more calories in you, that would have to be cut, and more prioritize on those last heavy, good executed sets at the end, the sets that matter. Remove the junk volume. Now, when it comes to nutrition is another very careful aspect, and I'm currently 15 weeks out for a show, so at the minute, preserving muscle tissue during this aggressive sort of prep phase is crucial. But nutrition is your key here. So obviously you're going to need a base level of protein. That's another obvious one. Obviously the protein is going to have to be prioritized in order to maintain muscle tissue. However, carbohydrates is going to have to be a consideration as well. So what happens is a lot of people cut carbohydrates from diets because they see, okay, instant spikes, it's going to affect weight gain and stuff like that. But if you, again, are resistance training, carbohydrates are going to be very important. When your performance potential is down because of your low calories, you're going to need good carbohydrate sources in order for you to have the fuel to perform efficiently. Dietary fat is also a consideration. Some people pull dietary fat down because they think fat equals fat, but it's not the case. Again, fat levels are going to have to be quite moderate as well, because again, they're going to monitor things like your hormone production, your HDL, your good cholesterol levels, and in order that's going to increase your growth hormone production and stuff. And again, that's going to affect things like your amino acid production and stuff, and allow muscle and protein synthesis to occur and hold. The whole range of your micronutrients are important, and it's more important that you get these from really good sources. The final thing would be how you're losing weight. So obviously you're in a calorie deficit, but I assume you're doing some form of cardio as well. So when it comes to dieting, people will increase their output, their cardio. The simple fact of the matter is that your cardio is going to have a massive impact as well at how you spur muscle. So for example, some people start to run or start to do long endurance or high intensity cardio. I really think that this is the worst thing you can do. Keep in mind, when you're going under calories on a certain maintenance level, eventually your body gets to the point where it's essentially running on very limited fuel. You don't really have much energy to play around with in order throughout the day. So if you're doing resistance training as well, you don't really have much playroom to do mad intense cardio sessions as well. And also, they're just not needed. They're gonna put massive demands of recovery on your central nervous system, and in terms of like the next day, you're probably gonna feel really busted. So I would advise performing it in the sense of steady state cardio, steps, or maybe like short bursts of 5-minute sprints and then steady again. That kind of thing's fine, but anything long endurance, it's just going to waste away muscle. And again, just look around, look at long distance runners. They tend to have very stringy muscle, and that's because the body does not want to hold muscle when it has to run 40-50 minutes all the time. So steady state cardio walking, you can recover a lot easier from. Really focus on this, guys. Really focus on, when it comes to dieting, think in your head that, okay, when it comes to dieting, the body will drop muscle as well. How do I preserve as much tissue as I can? Because you've probably worked your ass off for years trying to put the muscle in the first place. Don't lose it. And I can promise you now, aggressive diets and stuff like that there, and you don't prioritize these things, you will lose it. Back in my 2022 show, and the last 4 weeks, I didn't take this into consideration, and I lost a considerable amount of muscle mass. I feel anyway, and it's a whole other show to put it back on afterwards. Anyway, if that helped, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below if you do have any questions on the matter. But until next time, have a lovely weekend, and I've been Carl from the York Den.